So welcome back to Widescreen. So there's John, right? And John, he's got a crappy little job. You know, it's not a very, it's just a living. It pays the bills and not much else. He's got little to no social life. He's got no woman. He feels lonely as hell, right? His job, it has no prospects, right? So he can't really save with that job, and he can't really climb the ladder of that job. There's nothing to climb to, if you will. And he's sort of stuck. His days just, they run into one another. He lives in an apartment or maybe a house, and you know, the house, the place he lives, it's nice enough, but it's a mess. You know, he's got like dirty clothes all over the place, like dirty dishes all over the place, you know, old pizza boxes and what have you, crap, rubbish, trash everywhere. And you know, every like weekend or something, or every other weekend, he'll say, you know, I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to clean it up, right? I'm going to clean up my place and leave it spick and span, and it'll be like a nice place to live, right? So he starts to clean it up a little bit, and you know, he cleans up a little corner, and you know, the whole place is such a mess that, you know, he just gets demotivated and winds up, you know, playing video games or jerking off. You know, I mean, like he's becoming an Olympic champion at both video game playing and jerking off. I mean, the guy is spanking the monkey, you know, 2, 3, 4 times a day, right? I mean, it's getting to the point where his dick is getting chaffed, right? I mean, like scar tissue is forming on his dick from so much masturbation, right? Right, yeah. I mean, that's his only source of enjoyment all day, you know, and the days just like bleed into one another, and he's just killing off his days, and it's just a miserable existence. It's a completely static existence. You know, if you were to put like an EKG to his life, it would just be a flat line, you know, just like flat line, just dead. That's his life, okay? I mean, he's still breathing in and out. His heart is still beating in his chest, but his life is dead. It's completely static. He's not moving forward. He's got nothing to look forward to. And he feels that there are no opportunities for him, that he can't do any better. This is it. And sometimes, you know, in the dark of the night, he thinks to himself that maybe it would be best to just, you know, end it. And sometimes he feels just so low because he feels that nobody cares about him. There's nobody in his life. He's got a few friends and they're scattered here and there. There's nothing for him. And he thinks about that. And sometimes the idea of just committing suicide just pops into his head. And sometimes he starts to think that it might be a good idea, right? Now, this is happening to John, right? I don't know if something like that's ever happened to you, because I can say that it's happened to me. It's happened to me that I've been like in this, not just a rut, it's been like my life has just stopped. It's just flatlined, right? And it's probably happened to you too. It's probably happened to you because it's happened to me, because it's happened to everybody. Every guy I know has gone through a period like this. Every guy I know has gone through a period where his life seems flatlined, like there's no pulse to his life. And the days are just getting killed one after the other. Time is running out on him, and there's nothing. And it's happened to everybody, okay? Now, in our current society, you know, what do people say? I mean, if you tell most people, most normies, you tell them, you know, this story, right? Like I've told you now, what are they going to say? They're going to say, oh, you're depressed, so you should take a pill, an antidepressant pill, and you should go and see a therapist. That's right. Take an antidepressant and go and see a therapist. Here's a card with this great therapist who helped out my sister after her postpartum depression or whatever. You know, go see him. You know, that'll make your life happy, right? I'm here to tell you it's not going to make your life any happier. You know, your life is not going to improve if you take antidepressant pills or if you go and see a therapist, you know. It won't make your life happier. It'll make the therapist's life happier, sure, because he'll have a new client, a paying customer. You're going to be paying, $100 per session, maybe $200 per session, once or twice a week, maybe your insurance will pay for it, right? And so he'll have a paying customer. Same with the big pharma company that's going to be selling you the antidepressant pills. They're going to be very happy that you realize that you're depressed and that you need to take medication, because they're going to have a paying customer, somebody who's going to spend $1 or $2 a day on their pill. What's that going to add up to? $100, maybe $200 a month? More sales for the big pharma company. Yeah, they're going to be happy. Are you going to be happy? Probably not. Probably not. And I'm going to say something, I'll tell you the reason why. And it's not a very popular reason in our contemporary society, but it's the true reason. You see, the contemporary society will say, oh, you feel static. You feel that your life is a misery. You feel, vaguely suicidal sometimes, right? Therefore, you're depressed. That's what's going on. No, that's not what's going on. It's not that you are depressed, therefore your life is static. No. It's the other way around. Your life is static. That is why you are depressed. Your life is stuck. You're stuck and you're not moving forward in your life. Because men are like sharks. You know that story? I don't know if it's true or not, but the meme is that if a shark stops moving, the shark dies. Same with guys. Guys, we're like sharks. If we stop moving forward, we die. If we land in like some picture-perfect little universe, we're going to die, okay? And by the way, this story I tell you about John, with the crappy job, this happens at all income levels. It's not something that, if you're earning, $1,000 or $2,000 a month, you're going to have this kind of misery. There are guys who are earning 5 figures a month who have the same misery. There are guys who earn in the millions of dollars a year who are experiencing that same misery. I know some of them. And one in particular who was doing very, very well, I know him intimately. That's right, me. One time when I was just raking in the cash like there was no tomorrow, it was among the most unhappy periods of my life. Far and away. I felt just completely miserable. There was like a 1.5 year period in the late 90s, like around 97, 98, when it was just the most spectacular misery I've ever felt in my life. I felt completely isolated. I felt like I was in a cage, and I was raking in money. I was raking in tons of money. And what would I do with this money? I'd go out shopping. I'd take this money, take the credit card, go out shopping, buy a whole bunch of shit that I did not need, thinking that maybe if I bought something, it would alleviate my misery. And of course it didn't, right? I went to therapy thinking that going to therapy would alleviate my misery. Of course it didn't. They palliated the symptoms, but the underlying misery, the stasis of my life, which was causing my misery, it remained, okay? And that was the first time I realized what I had to do. And I've done it on a number of opportunities since, and it's always been beneficial. Whenever you feel that your life is static and without purpose, whenever you feel like you are in a labyrinth with no exit, whenever you feel like you are in a hole and that your life, no matter how comfortable or uncomfortable it may be, is just like a prison, and you have nothing to look forward to, this is my suggestion. You pick up that life and you smash it on the floor. You smash it to smithereens. You just totally shatter it. That's what you do. That's absolutely what you do. And I'll tell you why. You see, what happens is that men, like I said, we're not built for a static life. Okay? We need to be moving forward. We need a goal, an objective, a mountaintop. Okay? We need to be striving towards something. If we're not striving towards something, we start to feel inconsequential. We start to like fade away. Okay? I've seen that in myself, and I've seen it in other men. When you no longer have a great goal in your life, you start just like wandering around like in a daze. And the entropy starts to accumulate in your life. The dirty dishes start to pile up. The mess in your apartment, the mess in your personal life, the mess of your failed relationships, everything starts to accumulate when you don't have a goal, okay? Now, moron therapists will say, well, you just have to, decide on a goal and fix a goal for yourself and go after that goal. It's not that easy. It's not that you go and sit down in a room or on a sofa or something and just talk about what you'd like to do and eventually arrive at a goal. It doesn't work that way, okay? Especially not when you have like a static life, when your life has become a static prison, okay? When that happens, what's going on is that you don't see any exit. You don't see a way out. So you have no objective. So sitting there and trying to figure out an objective, it's not going to work. You're not going to do it. You're not going to pull it off, see? But when there's chaos, that's different. When there's chaos, there's opportunity, you see? See, you're stuck in a labyrinth, and you pick it up and you smash it on the floor, right? And what happens? Things open up, okay? Yeah, the chaos is a mess, right? Chaos has you scrambling to fix the stuff up, but it also opens doors, opens avenues, opens opportunities. Opens potentially new goals for yourself. You see what I mean? See, the prison that you're living in, more often than not, is a prison that you have made for yourself. Okay, now that isn't going to give you any comfort. Okay, the way you have to break out of it is by breaking that life. What does that mean specifically? Quitting your job, grabbing all your crap, selling it all, buying a motorcycle, and going somewhere. Okay, just driving away. Okay. Now that's a very specific example. I did that, okay? Actually, it wasn't with a motorcycle. I wish I had, but it was too cold. I went with a Land Rover, right? I sold off all my shit. I threw away all the crap and anything valuable I had. I sold it off on Craigslist and just hopped on my Land Rover and I just drove. I drove all around the North American continent. I drove from New York City to Toronto, around the Great Lakes, up to Yellowknife, then over the Rocky Mountains, up to Alaska, and I wound up on the North Shore of Alaska, camping out in the middle of fucking winter on the North Shore of Alaska in my Land Rover with the dog, right? And after that, I drove down through Alaska, then took a ferry along the fjords of Alaska down to Washington State, and then I drove along the West Coast and then crossed the Southwest and Texas and the Deep South and wound up back in New York City, right? Took me 6 months to do that trip. That was chaos, right? That was an adventure. That was breaking out, okay? And during that trip, that 6-month trip, I figured out a lot of stuff about myself, about the things I've been doing, and I got out of that rut. I got out of that stasis, okay? You see, the reason you are in that stasis is that you have been told that having like a job and a nice place and everything is the objective you should have. But that's not necessarily the case, you see? And frankly, living for yourself, just having a place for yourself and a nice job that pays the bills and all the rest of it, that's not much to live for now, is it? It's kind of pathetic if you think about it. Oh yeah, I got a great job and I have a great place and I have great toys and I have a nice car and I have nice clothes and so what? You have stuff, but where are you going with your life? Do you have an objective? Do you have a goal? Doesn't matter if the goal is unrealistic. It doesn't matter if the goal is almost well nigh impossible. Do you have a goal? Because even if it's well nigh impossible, there's still that possibility that you'll make it. And it gives you hope. A goal gives you hope. A goal gives you something to wake up in the morning to do, to strive for, right? You take a guy like John and you compare him to Joe. And Joe and John have the same miserable job, the same miserable apartment, the same miserable everything, okay? But Joe has this aim for doing something. I don't know what. I mean, like he wants to set up, a woodworking furniture store or some shit like that, right? And so he's got a goal. He's got something to live for, to work for, to strive for. See? But you can't simply invent a goal. If you have a life and you're static and stuck in it, you can't just decide that you're going to break out and have this goal. No, you have to break the whole life, leave it behind you, And in the chaos that ensues from throwing away your old life, something will pop up. Something will come about. New possibilities will emerge. It's inevitable. Okay? Now, a lot of people don't want to do this. A lot of people don't want to throw away their old life because they've invested a lot of time and effort into it, right? I talked about this right here in the sunk cost fallacy video. You see, when you've invested a lot of time and effort into a specific kind of life, you're going to find it very difficult to leave it behind, because you're going to say to yourself, well, I spent so much time and effort on this life, I don't want to just throw it away. I'd be throwing away all that effort. But see, that's exactly what is leading you to this stasis, which leads, of course, to this depression that you're experiencing. Okay? It's the fact that you want to hold on to this old life. You want to hold on to it as hard as you can because it took too much effort, too much striving and work to get to this life. And now that you have it, it's fucking misery. But, so that's why you don't want to let go of it, because even if it's miserable, it was so hard to get it. Okay? Like in the video, I talk about that guy who took a picture, and it wasn't a very remarkable picture of a mountain, right? But it was so hard for him to get it that he kept insisting that his photo editor buy it. But the photo editor wouldn't, because it was a shitty picture. Same with your life. You have a life, and it took you so much effort and time and work to get it, but maybe it's a shitty life. You see my point? Maybe the life that you're living, it's just a shitty life, and you should leave it behind. Because maybe this life that you thought was such a good life, it's the reason that you're miserable now. And you put so much work and effort into it, but really, if you are so unhappy with it now, how do you think it's going to be in the future? How do you think it's going to be tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? Is it going to improve magically? Is the life that you put so much effort into and which now makes you miserable, will it be better in a year? Will it be better in 10 years? When will it be better? Because if it will never be better than this life that you strove so hard to get, it's not a life. It is a prison sentence. It is a prison sentence that will kill you. Because really, let me ask you something. Do you want to have a miserable static life? Just this flatline life, right? And just spend every one of your days in this flatline life, day after day, year after year, decade after decade, and then all of a sudden your life is over and you have nothing to show for it but this misery that you've been enduring? Is that how you want to end your days?